Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Udall. Senator Chambliss.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you for your service. General Alexander, I thank you particularly for your recent trip down to Fort Gordon, where you gave a pat on the back and a morale boost to some of the smartest, hardest working, most committed Americans who are doing a great job of helping protect our great country, and I thank you for doing that at NSA Fort Gordon. General Alexander, Cybercom, you said had 13,000 employees. Let me make sure I get this right in my mind. It's actually, you have 13,000 personnel under your direction. Cybercom itself has what, maybe 1,000 or so personnel?
A little under 1,000 authorized, about 900 and some. And that does not only the Cyber Command staff, but also operates and directs the defense of the DoD networks. But that's correct. So our cyber, what I counted in that other 12,000 is our cyber, Army Cyber Command, Air Force
various
Cyber
services
24. That's right.
Right. Okay. I want to make sure I understood that. NSA today does a pretty good job of intercepting and protecting the .gov, the .mil networks. In fact, I've heard you say that you have the DoD information systems are probed as many as 250,000 times an hour, over 6 million times a day from criminals, terrorist organizations, including 100 foreign intelligence organizations. And even with that huge magnitude of hacks into the system, General, NSA has done a remarkable job of protecting that system. Are you satisfied with where you are in that regard today?
Actually, I'm going to answer this twice and contradict myself. We're making progress, and I think we're doing a good job on it, but we're not where we need to be, Senator. And there's two reasons I say that. I do think we have the best defense right there, but it could be better, and I think for the future, for military command and control, it must be better. So I think the IT modernization that the Defense Department is looking at is a key part to even make it better.
Okay. And the legislation that we're talking about, whether it's the administrations or Lieberman-Collins, one and the same, or the alternative legislation, neither one of those really address that issue. This is work that you're doing, protecting .gov and .mil, right?
That is correct in part. If I could say the slight difference is the information sharing of those things that we do to protect our networks that go beyond what you would normally do for a civilian network are the things that we should think should be included in the information sharing parts that both of those have.
Okay, I'm going to get to information sharing in just a minute. Now, going one step further there, NSA also monitors the DIB of the Defense Industrial Base. And there have been numerous attempts, and it may be within those numbers that I've heard you use before. Hacks into the Defense Industrial Base have happened, and NSA does a good job of protecting those scenarios where that has happened. You've been notified, and you're able to respond to it. Am I correct?
Not quite. There's an innuendo here that I think is extremely important. The Internet service providers operate that. We provide them signatures, as do the other industry players. And the Internet service providers actually do the work. The reason that that's important is that I believe that's how we can scale in protecting other critical infrastructure in the mechanisms that Homeland Security and others are working with. So the key part, what we bring to the table, and what FBI and others would bring, is specific things that we see going on in the network that may be sensitive or classified. And so we bring that, but they actually operate it. The part that we're able to work with the DIB is to understand that they will protect and safeguard classified information. That's a key element of this approach.
Okay, my point being that your relationship with the Internet providers today allows that the Defense Industrial Base to have that protection.
That's correct, and now it's been taken over by DHS, so they actually lead. They're the lead interface for now DIB pilot have been doing that for 6 weeks. We're at the table and provide technical support, but they're actually the lead on that as well.
Okay, and looking at another, what I would assume you'd consider critical infrastructure, our electric grid. If the electric grid is hacked into today, there is a mechanism in place that was developed by industry where if they see something unusual, then they notify NERC, and NERC immediately goes to USCERT and notifies USCERT about it, which is on the Department of Homeland Security, and they are able to provide protection to the grid under voluntary standards that the industry put forth. Am I correct?
Yes, but I think, Senator, that's slightly different, if I could, because in those notifications, you've gone out of real time to now a part where actually we're in the forensics mode. So what they're telling is something has occurred, and by the time it gets to USCERT, what USCERT could do is not prevent it, but only help them understand it.
Okay.
So I think the information sharing part of what you and others have proposed would take that to a more real-time capability, or at least allow that, where they could say, I see X happening, and industry could tell the government that that event is occurring, so that you could take it from the forensic side to the prevention side, which is, I believe, hugely important for the protection of the country.
Okay, and now coming back to what you just alluded to and you stated earlier, and that is on information sharing. This is really the key, as I understand it, from the standpoint of being able to provide blanket protection to virtually every segment of the economy or every industry that wants the protection out there or that needs the protection. If they have the capability of sharing proprietary information with both the government as well as with other industries, then isn't that the crux of what it's going to take to be able to protect all of the industrial base from a cyber attack in the short run as well as in the long run?
Not actually. From my perspective, Senator, the issue in this part really lies in two great capabilities. The one that we provide, I agree they want that. They want to know what are the foreign, state, and other sensitive things that could attack them. Industry also brings together the McAfee's, the Symantec's, the Lockheed Martins, and all those that work in this area also bring a wealth of knowledge in how to configure and operate your networks to a certain standard. It is our assumption in going into this that those networks, like the DoD networks, would be operated to a standard. If they're not operated to a standard, then what happens is you have other ways of getting into the network that we probably are not looking at. We assume that the doors will be locked. If the doors are not locked, then somebody would get in, or if the window was open. What we would be doing is looking for other types of nation-state threats and assume that what I'll call the stuff that the antivirus community generally sees and is working on today is taken care of. What that means, I think, as you put all that on the table, is one, we all have to work together and share information. I agree that part. And I do think we have to have some set of standards, and I think that's where working with the industries, just as you said, so how do you get to that standard, and how do you have the industry players work with the government and say, so what's the right way to approach it? As you may know, we had a meeting a few years ago with a number of the electric companies who asked just that question, so how do we do this, and who's going to tell us, how do we work it? And I think that's the approach that we have to take. Help them get there in such a way that it's not burdensome but helpful.
Yeah. Well, I think that part of both pieces of legislation is about the same with respect to getting voluntary participation versus mandatory is a little bit different. But the fact of getting the industry to set the standards is the key, and getting the industry to share the information is the other piece of that both pieces of legislation have that is a critical part of it. Mr. Chairman, my time is up. I did want to say to General Kehler, I didn't vote for the START Treaty. One reason I didn't is because I was apprehensive about the administration not being able to do what they said they would do on modernization. I thank you for your specific comment on that, about the fact that you're concerned about it. And that is a critical aspect of this that we look forward to working with you as we go forward. It's got to be done. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Senator, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Chambliss. Senator Sessions.
Thank you, Senator Chambliss, for that comment. And